Hey everybody, we are officially starting writing workshop and I am so excited. I know that you are in the best hands when it comes to writing. We are going to be writing our narratives this unit. And before we even begin, I want to make sure that we talk about how to set up notes. So remember, I talked about this in class before. When you are taking notes, I really don't want you just copying word for word, because when you copy word for word, that in itself is just you just going through the motions. And what we want you to do, and what I really want you to try for, is putting things into your own words. Now, don't get me wrong, if my words make sense to you and that's the best way, please go ahead and do it. If words aren't exactly connecting with you, I want you to draw a picture. I want you to talk it out. I want you to repeat this video over and over again so that whatever it is that I'm talking about, you can truly grasp, okay? So before we get started, our focus today is setting up our writing, and it's really going to focus on engaging in positive writing habits. That's our biggest outcome. And so this is our step one, is to setting up how to write, okay? So my teaching point today is that writers can study finished work, like published work, and imagine the strategies that are used and apply them into your own work. Okay, that's great, Mrs. Sherwood, but what does that really mean? So I broke it down into my own words to help teach you that good writers study other authors in order to get inspiration for their own writing. That's really it. A lot of times authors will steal from other authors. I've talked about it time and time and again that Percy Jackson and the Harry Potter series are completely aligned towards each other. Rick Riordan does a great job with Greek mythology research, and J.K. Rowling does a fantastic job of making those correlations through the old mythical stories to different stories from the Renaissance, and the authors use research too to help make their stories seem more realistic, even if it is fantasy and about gods and wizards. So the strategy in this session is really short. It's all about thinking about small moments, and what I mean by that is, for one example, I have my very first roller coaster ride. I'm sorry, the Zoom keeps going in and out on that. That's a seed moment. It is small. So if I were to make it even bigger, I would then transform it into a watermelon story, okay, where it was my golden birthday in Wisconsin Dells. Now, I happen to have ridden the roller coaster Pegasus in Wisconsin Dells, but that is the small moment of the entire trip, okay? I can turn this into a much longer story by being more detailed and focused on that story. Just like when I did my flash draft, this was a moment where, a small moment of my fourth grade life, where I got grounded for not telling my parents where I was going. Do you remember me reading this out loud? I was able to use strategies like dialogue that I've read before. I was able to use metaphors and similes and lots of figurative language to help stretch out that story. And so what I want you to do at this point is to read the mentor text that we have for you. I believe I put this in the writing workshop folder under mentor text and narratives. I want you to read this to yourself, and I want you to think of it just in terms of reading for enjoyment. That's all I want you to do. Okay, go ahead and take a couple moments to do that now. You can pause this video, and when you're done, go ahead and restart it, okay? Okay, so at this point you've restarted the video and you've read the entire personal narrative. I'm going to read it out loud just to give you a little bit of verbal and audio, so that maybe if you read it a little bit differently, you'll have a second time read with me. I shivered a little bit. "It's pretty cold," I said as I dipped my toes in the water. I took a pebble and threw it far into the creek. "Well, whatever," I said, as I plunged into the cold water. It felt amazing. The cold water covered my eyes like a gentle blanket like gentle blankets, and the water washed over me like a breeze swimming in my like a breeze. Swimming is my favorite. Wait up, yelled Emma as she ran down the hill with her floaty wrapped around her waist. Her curly brown hair whipped around in the breeze, and I shivered. I was cold already. A moment after that, India's mom waded in, laughing. Ha! It's cold, she said. Then she stopped. Girls, out! Out of the water! She pushed us back to the shore. I looked back and saw a long, thin water snake slithering down toward us. I gasped. I quickly swam underwater in big, wide strokes. I've never saw any water snakes around Osopus Creek, I thought. And that's where it ends. And I know I struggled a little bit because she did have some grammar errors in this one. However, I want you to think about this anchor chart, and this will also be in your writer's folder. I'm also going to have some paper copies so that you can print it out and paste it into your writing journal for your notes and your reference. But when we're writing powerful personal narratives, this is the document I want you to really think about. So let's just look at the top 2 points right now. Did this person in the mentor text think of a person, place, or a moment in their life that matters, and did they write a story about it? If you answered yes, then we can move on. If you answered no, I want you to really look into that mentor text and find evidence to really see, did they write about a person, place, or a moment? Okay? Could be maybe a first or a last time that you realized something. It really doesn't matter. Hopefully you answered yes, because the next one is focus on one episode. Write with detail and don't summarize a stretch of time. So basically, this author focused on one episode. We haven't even gotten to the big part yet when this person is explaining the exposition of the story, and we are really getting into it. So we are hooked in. They found a water snake, and I am scared for them. So what I want you to do is go through this anchor chart, and I want you to see if you can find at least 2 more items that this mentor author did for us. And what I want you to do is you are just going to take notes on what other authors have done. You're going to look in your own independent reading book. Since you're all reading fiction, narratives, and novels, I want you to be able to find it. And then secondly, we're going to use some of the short stories from our literature books. So far, you can pull from Just Once, you can pull from Tanaika, and you can pull from All American Slurp. There are a couple other stories in that literature book that are definitely okay to use, and we'll talk about them later in class. But for right now, that's what I want you to work on. When you are done taking notes, we're going to work on really exploding that moment in your own personal narrative, because that's our goal. Our first summative is going to be about writing a personal narrative, and this is going to engage in positive habits of being a writer, because all writers have personal narratives. Every single person has a story, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. And that's it. That's all I have for you today and for this lesson. And have fun and get exploring. Use those mentor texts to help.